Hey everybody, welcome to another episode here. I'm today doing something I was hoping never to have to do again, which is to work on a body for Grail Classic. So I have a buddy in game who wants to have a body. I figured that I would kind of show one of the steps that I'm going to take before getting into the actual art. This is a template. So on this template here that I'm looking at, it's a body template, really basic. You can get it online. There's Grail Depot. I think you can get it on the Grailians website. If you see one of the submissions for Christmas or Halloween, or I think Valentine's Day might have some submissions this year. I don't know. If you see one of those, basically there's a link to a Dropbox where they'll have a bunch of these templates laid out. This one on the right hand side though is a little bit special. So this is kind of a guide showing where we're going to be able to have individual frames. So I'm probably not going to go through every single frame and drawing this all and mapping it around and the whole thing. But just to make it easier when we're working with a body file, I like to have this as a background or like an overlay as well as this. So like I can look at the position of the limbs and stuff, but I can also look at it from the point of view of, okay, so these ones are going to be for pull animation, or these ones are going to be for idle hold, or whatever those might be, right? So I like to take this base template here. I'm actually building this from scratch right now. I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to call it action verbiage. Sure, action. Let's say action template. And what I will do is I'll pop over to this template here. I'm going to go Control A, Control C, and then in this one here, when I come to my action template, I am going to paste in Control A, Control C. So Control V will paste it in, and now what I have is basically I can custom overlay into my action template, which shows me what the actions are for those individual frames, as well as the base frames. If I wanna mix and match, I can do one or the other. Right. So when I'm working on the actual image, then I'll be able to do that. I will save my file now, and I can get rid of body template detail. Goodbye forever. Okay, so the body that I've been requested to do is a fellow from an anime. I'm not familiar with it. I think it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure from what I've seen. I was just given a name which was Jotaro Kujo. So I've looked this guy up online. He's got a chain. He's got a little funny cap. Looks like a military dude. From what I could see, there was a bunch of different versions of him. So basically, I had to go back for a little bit of clarification, and what we're definitely looking for is this coloration. So we got the kind of like a gray green shirt. We got the trench coat. We got some rockin' leather pants. It looks like, I don't know who wears leather pants. And this weird chain. So if you guys are familiar with this, you know what the chain's about, let me know in the comments. He looks like some kind of a greaser, military something or other here. So I've got three different references that I'm going to work with. This one here, I actually really want to draw the colors from. So this particular image here, it's got really nice solid colors. I can get a real good feel for what those colors are going to be that I'm going to try and source in my base image. I'm going to index this body as well. So basically I'll only want to pick out like 6 colors, and I think this does a really good job of portraying those colors. In this one, I'm getting a little bit more detail. I want to source a couple of inspiration pieces here. One is the detail on the jacket. So he's got like a little pocket, he's got the chain, and then there's also this awesome belt going on down here. He's got this really cool looking belt. I'm hoping to get a little bit of that in the actual graphic. I know, bodies, especially like index bodies, it's going to be really tough to get some of that detail in there. But to have something like, again, there's a star in here. You can see again in this image that there's like, okay, so there's the purple, there's a yellow, there's a black, there's a little bit of like red, I guess, on this armband here. The chain is really muted. There's a little bit of green on the belt. There's a kind of a bunch of different colors going on here, but there are some themes where we could probably index this as well, and come away with something that was effective. This one here I actually was looking at specifically the length of his coat. I don't know how much of that I'm going to be able to pull over into a Grail body, but having an idea that it's actually knee length and not all the way down is going to make some difference. Okay. So basically, it's going to be the same process as the other art that I've done in the past. I will be hopping into this template file that I've set up. And I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is probably create a little bit of a palette for me to work with. And I'm going to get rid of this action template. That's really going to be for later. I'm doing another aspect of it when I'm thinking about the animations that I'm pulling out. Okay, so action template, I'm going to do another layer, which is going to be background, or no, not background, underlay, we'll call it. Underlay. Okay, so there's a bunch of different starting frames. I'm going to go for idle 1. So this is idle 1 here, what we're looking at the top row. And I'll be looking at the third one over from the left-hand side, which is the base downwards facing image. So right off the bat, something that strikes me here, and you know, it might come up later on as well, is that this particular body, when I'm looking at that guy's detail, like when I look at this guy here, he's super tall, he's super lean, and it really, I mean, it's an anime, so he has a certain look to him. He's actually kind of rocking the Freddie Mercury thing going on here, but that's cool too. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to kind of work off of something that's going to be a little bit less chunky. These guys are pretty beefy. You know, when you look at the Grail bodies, they're a little bit chunky. I'll probably want to make something that's going to be might have a little bit more character to it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is try and hash out a couple of real base structures on here. I'll try and get my paints out. I can't see my paints. Where are they? I guess I gotta pop out a window. Dockable dialogues. Do I have colors? Oh, only index. Ay. Where are my colors, guys? Dockable dialogues. Oh, my colors are over here. What am I doing? I haven't even popped it out yet. There we go. There's my colors. Okay, so I'm gonna pick out like a neon kind of a purple color. Actually, you know what? I think there is actually purple in the images that I'm working with, so I'm going to avoid that, and I'm going to go for like a yellow. So let's go for like a really obnoxious like tulip or daffodil yellow. I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to whip out my pencil tool. I'll bring this a little bit closer. And I'm going to go over this and make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm in my underlay layer. I'm going to go over this in such a way where I'm looking at on that body, on the first frame of all of the other animation. Like if you look at all the other frames, they all base themselves off this frame, right? Everything else is in comparison to that single frame. So the first one, and you saw this in the hats and stuff that I was working with as well. So the first one really needs to be the most specific, detailed, well considered. You have to look and think about what you're doing with all of the other frames. You have one little foot here, one little arm here, and then you can pretty much, copy over if you're just doing like a symmetrical body like this. I think that this is going to have to be asymmetrical, this guy, because he's got so much character to him. So if you've seen, there's a game called Mega Man. I'm sure that some people have probably heard of that in the past. So Mega Man has a different style of standing. I've seen a couple of bodies in game as well that have this kind of a character to them where they're kind of on a bias. The character doesn't really stand in a typical fashion, and I'm gonna kind of try and do a little bit of that for this guy here. So for this particular character, instead of having it being just the totally front-on non-profiled view, I'm gonna try and get this guy to have a little bit of a profile to him. So he's not gonna be standing just directly looking at the camera, basically, or the viewpoint. Another thing that I've noticed about this guy here is that he's got a really super huge collar. Every single image of this guy, he's got this like crazy collar. Well, except for this guy. But yeah, most of the other images, if you look online, this guy's got like a massive, huge collar that he hasn't turned down. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and emulate that as well. It's not gonna be very easy to get that in there, especially with the limitations of like the head. So basically, if I look at the graphic for the body is going to be different than the graphic for the head. The graphic for the head is going to show up in such a way where it actually overlaps the body, and a lot of the time, what you'll see in these templates is like the head will typically come in this location, right? We'll see something that will just consume the entire rest of the area to the point that they don't even think that there's really much reason to keep this detail here at all, right? In a base body. So I'm going to try and work with that to some extent. I will probably wind up cutting this down a little bit, but I think that having that kind of a profile where he's, you know, having that huge collar and the really defined detail on there, that's probably not going to go with any of the heads that are currently in game. And if we're going to be doing a head, or if somebody wants to do a head for this later on as well, then it's probably going to be even more difficult to really get them to work properly with the other images. Okay, so I'm coming to the limit of what I can do with one color here. There's this awesome other channel that I've got, which is Indie Tales. If you guys see in my main screen there's a fella named Adam C. Eunice, and he does some really good stuff over there. Basically, he says this entire process at the beginning is just directly like a total ripoff of what he does, and he will take that imaging. He has this idea where he'll take that base color, go as far as he possibly can with that one base color, and then from there he moves on to the secondary colors, whatever else he's going to draw as well. Because these guys are so low res, I'm tempted to just do the full silhouette. I think I'm going to, because I'm going to have the trench as well, the trench coat. And I want to have these two, there's these 2 pixels right here, and I so desperately want those to be external, these 2 right here, these 2 pixels. I want them to be in external outline, because that's going to add so much to the image, even though it's just 2 pixels, and even though it's so early on, I really, really want to keep these 2 blank, because they're gonna create depth in the image later on. Okay, gonna pop that up a little bit. This is his shoulder here. It's just 2 pixels again. This is really, I'm trying to squeeze water out of a stone, I think. Okay, so that's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to switch over to my darker color. And now that I've switched over to my darker color, I'm going to also reduce the size of my brush. Take it to 2. Excuse me. And yeah, I'm going to go for, that was way too much. Go for a little bit of detail down here, because it's going to kind of highlight the leg. The other thing I want to get is where the jacket sits as opposed to where his body is. So I'm going to go for this along here. And then I'm going to bring it up and give it a little bit of character, which is like give it a little bit of curve in this direction. And yeah, something like that. I'm also going to reduce it one more. So I'm going to take my brush size down to 1 here. I'm also going to go over the detail where I'm going to have shading. So this is kind of an all-purpose thing here. So I got his leg over here where he's going to have that detail. I'm going to have his hands. And I mean, if I look at these guys here, these are extremely detailed, probably pretty high res. He does have a hand that's as big or bigger than his head, but the detail on that hand, like if I zoom in a little bit, he's got 5 fingers, which, I mean, most characters do, but if we look at those 5 fingers, that's going to be more detail than we can ever get in a Graal sprite. So because of that, basically I'm gonna have to kind of make him have, again, it's gonna be something from Mega Man where the guy's got like these chubby like bricks for hands basically. I mean, if you look in the base sprite, you know, this guy totally has, he's got like lemons or oranges or something for hands. So we're gonna go with that. I'm gonna keep it shadow on this side completely for his hands. And on this side, I'm going to try and highlight. He's going to have a little bit of a slick on his coat there because the coat's going to be catching the light. Otherwise, pretty much everything is going to be that same shaded color. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of my background just to have a look at this. Is it recognizable? Not quite yet, I guess. Try and give it one of these. One of these, one of those. A little bit more character down here as well. I'm actually going to eliminate this whole section right here and only highlight the boot. So he's got this little boot corner that's coming out here. I'm actually going to erase this pixel and this pixel. The other thing that I really would like to do, if it fits in my frame, frame, where are you? There you are. And I do have a frame here, is I'm going to give this one more line, and I'm probably going to remove it in, actually. I think this is the way to go. So instead of making, you know, this foot basically is going to be facing to the left, and this one is going to be head on. So the idea will be to highlight this boot here, maybe like this, something like that, and have the image of this boot really visible and more detailed. This one will kind of like fade off into the background. I'm going to erase one pixel right here too. Basically to just give him some character, have one foot forward. Maybe his best foot. Oh, God. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give it one of those. He's got a little bit of a hanging hand thing going on here. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And we have a yellow boxy body thing. Okay, so this is kind of the point where I'm probably going to start blending into other colors. Gonna take that off, even though it removes some of the mad collar action. Because again, the mad collar is not really going to get recognized by the system in the same way that we would hope it to. I'm also going to, I see an opportunity to actually reduce the height of him, of the sprite here, so I'm going to erase that, bring it down one. Now the other thing that I want to look at, and probably you do too, is when we're looking at a sprite like this, he's not standing direct, like facing the viewpoint, like in the, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, in the newbie one. So like when we look at the Feng Xian or Feng Yian Si or whatever the heck his name is, it's exactly symmetrical. His shoulders are exactly the same height. His hands go down exactly the same distance, etc., etc. Even when you start seeing him move, like when you look at the other frames down below here, his shoulders are going to be pretty much the same height all throughout. You can see that they kind of meet at the top here. This is kind of where it gets a little bit less obvious. There's not an outline here because it just assumes that the head is going to take it over. But what we start seeing is that there is that that symmetry, basically, that the character doesn't really wobble around too much. When we look at something like this, we have to think about what's closer to the viewpoint. So this foot is going to come down further because it's closer to the viewpoint, right? It's talking about perspective. This hand here is actually wrong. If I look at this hand here, I'm down 2 pixels, whereas this one only comes down 1 pixel, I believe. So actually, technically, the hands are incorrect. So I'm going to actually move this hand up. And hopefully that serves to improve my silhouette a little bit. Yeah, I don't really like this going on right here. I'm gonna have to buff that up. And here too. Do the same thing over here. Cool. Okay. So now my hand, one of them is down 1 pixel further. Not going to make too terribly much of a difference, but let's pop that down as well. And I'll try and look at how many pixels long the hand is. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And there's my 2 special pixels that I really want to save, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to just eliminate them right now. Goodbye, pixels. Ha 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 ha. The other thing I want to do here is actually to have some definition. I want to keep some kind of shading, basically. Like I have to have some kind of something to identify that the arm is there. So maybe I will do one of these. And like that. But now I'm really stretching the boundaries of my second color, and I probably need to switch over into actual colors now. Okay, yeah, looking good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna leave it at that. I am now going to switch into another frame. I'm gonna do another layer. I'm gonna say base. Okay. Base. And the next part of that is I'm actually going to go into these other images here, which this one was the one I wanted to grab the color from. And I'm going to take these colors directly from this image. So this green looks pretty good. And the thing that I'm going to do is not actually slap it on my sprite. I'm going to put a little patch down here. I'm going to make a little patch right over here. Okay. And the way that will serve me is I'll be able to source from that patch instead of having to, you know, like pick it up from the image that I'm working on. Do the same thing over here. Got another little skin patch here. Skin patch, those are bad. Got another one. I'm also going to take the gold from one of his little chains over here. Actually, it's almost the same as the skin tone. This one's pretty burnished. Let's go for that. And last but not least, we need to pick out some of the color from his jacket. So there's a light part here, and actually this is kind of something that I was doing along the way, is I'm looking at what the colors are that are visible here. I'm really tempted to go with something like just absolutely bizarre for his jacket, but I'll leave it at this, because this is actually the color that's on that image. So I got the jacket, I got the gold color, I got the skin tone, I got a green. There is a little bit of difference. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll go for a little bit of grab on that. Is it the same as the, oh, it's not. Okay, so I will also take his edge on his cloak or trench coat. Bada bang, bada boom, is a palette. Okay, so I have 4 colors here. I think, oh no, sorry, 5 colors. I think I can probably get away with 1 more from the image, but what I will actually do is eliminate that image and see if I can find something in one of these other ones here. Let's look at this one. He's got that crazy belt. Yeah, let's grab the belt color. Because I wanted to get the belt in there somewhere, but I don't have the actual color for it yet. And it was green in the other image, so this one is orange, and the orange is, oh, it's totally different than the one that I already had. Okay, so I'm actually running into a challenge here now, because I've got a green and an orange belt. I don't know if that's important to this character. It looks like he's got a green and an orange belt. I don't have another green. Actually want to get the brightest possible that I can here, so it fits with my saturated colors in the other image. Oops. So I do, oh, there is a green there, yeah, look at that, okay. Yeah, so I have these colors. Basically, the issue that I'm running into now is that I only have so many colors that I can use in an indexed image. So if I'm going to index these body frames, basically I'm going to need to work with only a handful of colors so that I can then later on identify those colors for the system to allow them to be indexed. So it's something that I'll be working on probably next time. Picking out which colors those are. For now, I'm going to use exclusively this darker color, and I'm going to pick out the places in the trench coat here where I can safely color it dark. Actually, maybe what I'll do is pop this a little wider. There, okay. So I'm gonna take this black color and kind of highlight around here. And I have to remember that I'm actually drawing on top of this, so it's kind of like tracing. I'm not actually drawing like freeform. It's something where I'm using the existing image below, but it's actually showing up because there's you know, that layering effect going on here. Okay, so I'm trying to leave a place along the side here where there's a little bit of highlight. This was a lighter dark color. I don't think that it's really going to be my total black. I think there's probably going to be a darker black that I'll use as well. Oh no, that wasn't good. I also know where the skin tone is going to be down at the bottom there. And I'm going to try and keep this right here for a highlight. There's going to be highlights on the edges of his shoulders here. There's probably going to be highlights down here. I will, however, do some of this because it will reflect nicely for the rest of it down below here. I'm also going to buff up this corner edge here with a little bit of black. It's not actually black, not quite. I think this will probably get an overhaul too. Do like this. Oh yeah, and right, I'm actually coming in and doing the overhaul with the second image. Never mind. Okay, so I'm gonna throw in a little bit of texture on this part here as well. It is gonna be a jacket of some definition, but I don't know where that's gonna be. Oh wait, I do know where that's gonna be. He's got like that crazy chest thing going on. So it's actually gonna be at the waist level that we're gonna see more jacket. Wow, this looks like a terrible, terrible version. Looks like NES Kujo. Okay. And my color reference for skin was, it was originally that, but I think I'm going to go with this one and probably eliminate this white color because I can get away with a skin tone that's a little bit more universal. Oop, messed that up. And then here I can actually get away with using the fill bucket because I've surrounded all the other image. Here too I can fill bucket that. Wherever you can, fill bucket. Some people are fanatics. They'll be like, no, you're not allowed to fill bucket. This is pixel art. You have to draw every single one. If you can get away with it, do it. Okay, so the other color that we're going to use is his chest area, which was that kind of like, I know it was this green. I'm going to see if I can use the other green, the belt green, and get away with it. And there's a trade-off here because if we wind up using only 6 colors, we can index, right? And the index will look really nice. But what will happen is we won't be able to do shading, and we won't be able to do any kind of creative texture or detail. It will have to be solid single colors all throughout. So it's kind of unfortunate, and it leads me to do this as well, even though I don't want to. And actually, come to think of it, this whole arm would be black. And technically so with this one, because it's going to be in that same thing, right? Okay, well, we got a weird trench coat action going on here. We're probably going to fix this up. Next thing is that his pants are the same color as the rest of him, but I'm going to take that down here. And okay, so I've definitely got this green I'm using. So that's 1. And then from there I'm using my skin tone, that's 2. From there I also chose this black, which is going to be pretty handy. And I need 1 more. Okay, so I'm going to use this gold color. Or more of copper, I guess. Tan, maybe. So I have 4, and I get 2 more colors. I'm probably going to go for a dark. I'm going to go for a lighter dark one. And now is the point where I'm breaking from that color palette that I'd switched out over there. And I'm going to try and make the same kind of a color, but a little bit lighter. So I'm going to keep it relatively the similar saturation, but I'm just going to reduce the darkness. Reduce the darkness a little bit. And see if I can kind of play off of the existing color here. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Actually, that's got an interesting combination with these other colors too. I like the way that turned out. And that's going to allow me to do stuff like this along here, if I can. Give him a little bit of a action on his sleeve there. Going to have a little bit of definition around the side up here. And you'll notice that I'm working entirely in one frame right now. Like I'm not actually switching between layers on this. And it's because I really want to get this defined in such a way where I'm able to pick this up on the other frames as well. And then I can get a little bit more into the technical detail stuff. Okay, so I'm seeing right now that I actually want another green color, but I might not get away with it. Depends on what I actually need here. I'm going to give him a little bit of coloration on his arm on the outside sleeve, and I'm also going to draw it down. Down the side, down to here, here, and these little pixels down here, which weren't behaving very nicely. Okay, so from there I have 5 colors chosen now, and I need to look at his pants still, and his boots. But both his pants and his boots were black, so I have the black-gray cover going on there, and I really need to think about his chain. Yeah, I think the chain is going to go a different color, but I'm going to use this one for now. So he did have like a wild chain going on up here. I'm going to try my best to make it look okay, but it's probably going to look like crap right now. Give it a 2 on this side, and 1 over there. Nope, that didn't work. Yeah, chain's hard to do at low resolution. I mean, I could do something lame and be like this. But that's really just gonna look like it's dithered. If I zoom out on that, it's gonna look so dumb. And maybe not as bad as I thought. It's not recognizable as a chain, whatever it is. Looks like some kind of a button. Okay, so what I'll actually do, I have another idea, is I will zoom way, way in. And I'm going to go down straight on one side here. So I'm going to go down just about, I think it's just about to his elbow. So like, let's look at one of these images. That's not a good image for that. Let's go to the other image. Yeah, so if you look here, the chain actually pulls down on this thing, and it's almost perpendicular. It's just above the elbow, basically. So I'm gonna go for just above the elbow, and instead of having it be well defined, I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna save me pixels. So the way that's saving me pixels, and I'm gonna bring this jacket collar all the way down here, so it's really apparent that it's still on the jacket. So this allows me to save pixels by just making it, it just kind of hints that there's something here. I'm going to give him one off at the end, give it a little bit of character, a little flair at the bottom. So you can see that there's something hanging there. We're probably going to be looking, usually in Graal, we're looking at a 200. That's usually the appearance based on the resolution that we get on screen. So that's not great. In the existing image here, it looks like a little frill. Maybe if I do one of these, but then what's going to happen is I'm going to wind up with like BBBBB instead of a chain. Yeah, it's still the same thing. How about that? We'll leave it like that. We'll do it. We'll go for it. We'll leave it like that for now and improve it later on when we're doing the actual image. Okay, so my next step here is going to be to try and define his boots, which are pretty gnarly. I would like to have a little bit more freedom with that with colors, but because I want to index the entire image, I really have a limited color palette I'm allowed to pick and use. So, actually right there, I made a mistake over here. Because now I have to use black and gray all the way throughout. You know what? I'm going to give him another color just for his pants, and we're going to work with that. We're going to work with what we got. So I'm not going to go for white pants. I think I'm going to use some jean color, because all these colors are starting to look the same to me. The greens and the kind of gold color are relatively identical. So I'm going to do a jeans color. It's going to be a kind of like a light blue. See if I can match the level of saturation with the other graphics in the image. And this will not reflect the end color, but it will help me at this stage to identify where those pants are. And when you're actually playing as a player, like when you're using the body later on, it will become apparent that the body, the graphic is only going to have 6 colors, but the way that you identify those colors, like, you know, as a player, you'll be able to switch between those colors and identify, you know, okay, so these are his pants, what color are they going to be, etc. Right? So I would really like the chain just to have its own color, but it will probably get absorbed into something else later on as well. Okay, so we're getting there. It's starting to look pretty good. I'm not super happy with the color options that I have, but I'm doing what I can with what I got. And I'm tempted to make it so that his pants are totally like right up to his armpits, but I don't think that that's really his character. The other thing I'm going to do is look at this. So this shirt here has one color. And this is actually the challenge with these pants. is that the shirt has one color, the pants have one color, and then the trench coat needs its own attitude going on as well. And when we're getting into these little feet down here, it's going to be pretty tricky to keep that separate from the shoe as well. As you can see, it's just blending right in. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna headlong into it and lean right into pants being a thing. That means that I'm gonna have pants on this side that are gonna come out to here. I'm gonna erase this one here, and it was really just the choice to eliminate those 2 pixels there that was holding me back. Okay, so now I'm gonna take the lighter gray. I'm gonna highlight my top of my boot basically, and then I'm gonna take the lower darker color. Give him one of these. Put this side of the boot a little bit dark, and then for these 2 pixels here, set it up like that, and we're getting there. It's almost there. The other thing you have to remember is that I have an outline that's going to come in and ruin this whole thing too. So at this point, what I will do is I'm going to take my... I have to identify where I can cut this guy. So I'm going to go right about there and pop him up 1 frame. So my base, you can see actually my yellow from my base is coming out now. There's also a really dirty pixel right here. I'm going to keep that one there. Bring these guys down like that. And that's looking pretty good. I'm getting pretty happy with that. I think that he looks like, you know, something like that character at least. I think it's good for a first cut. Pulling into animating this is going to be a nightmare, but you know, that's why we don't have 50 bajillion bodies kicking around. I know that there's probably going to be some feedback on this. I hope to hear from you guys what you think. If there's any way that I can improve, I'd love to hear it. The other part of it is that we'll probably eventually hear from the folks who are asking for this. I have a couple other pieces that are going to be worked on as well. Hopefully that you got a couple of things out of this. Specifically, I was hoping to showcase the templates, how the template works when we have the base template, how we can use multiple layers in GIMP to kind of, you know, switch between these layers and identify what's going on in these different screens. Also, eventually, not in this episode obviously, but eventually I'll be doing the color indexing as well, so stick around for that. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this was helpful and informative, and I will see you all next time.